What's up, boys? So today we're going to be looking at a video from Patrick. We check out a lot of his video. I check out a lot of his videos in my free time. He's a pretty good YouTuber. So we're going to be looking at a video that is titled "Piracy is the Logical Solution." Now, I don't know what this has been. Maybe it's my algorithm or something. What has happened is I've kept seeing videos on like people talking about how piracy is the only way, is the only logical solution, it's the only thing to do because it's the most it's the most logical. A lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of these videos, so I've decided, you know what, since the algorithm is telling me that the algorithm is giving me this, so I'm just going to watch it. So yeah, I'll save my commentary for the actual video and let's get into it.
If buying isn't owning, then piracy isn't stealing, which is why piracy is no longer seen as digital theft reserved for risk takers and your plug who knew a sketchy website. Now it's easier and more convenient than ever. TV, movies, sports, live events, whatever you want for free. It's become so normalized that piracy sites are getting more yearly visits than every streaming service combined. But this makes sense when you consider that every facet of the entertainment industry has been destroyed by corporations. Even if you're not a sports fan, you will relate to this struggle, because you need to see how insanely difficult it is just to watch a basketball game. I live in Oklahoma City, and I really wanted to follow the Thunder and the entire Western Conference a couple years ago, so I bought NBA League Pass for $110 for the season. Silly me for thinking that one streaming service would have every game. League Pass only lets you watch games that are out of market, which meant I couldn't actually watch the Thunder games because I live in Oklahoma City and those rights belong to the FanDuel Sports Network.
That is wild. That is wild. So I'm spending $110 to watch a game, to watch like a season of basketball, but I cannot watch like a certain part because it is out of market. That's stupid.
And if the game was nationally televised, that was exclusively broadcast on ESPN or TNT, which meant I needed a cable package or another app like Hulu Live or Sling just to catch the games literally.
I think if someone says AI music lacks soul or authenticity, that is honestly a valid
happening in my city. As of right now, if you want to guarantee that you will be able to watch all of the NBA games in the US when they are actually happening live, you need to have ESPN, which requires you to have Hulu plus Live TV or YouTube TV or Sling Orange TV or with an upgraded cable package. Then you need Peacock, which is $11 per month. Then you need Prime Video, which is $9 per month, and ABC, which would come with your basic local cable subscription. The cheapest way to guarantee every game would be $66 in subscriptions and whatever your basic cable costs these days, which is on average about $25. So roughly $91 per month just to watch basketball, the cheapest. Now, me personally, I would never pirate anything. That is behavior I absolutely condemn.
We do not condone piracy over here. Piracy is nothing that we will ever promote. It is an illogical practice, and we over here do not partake in it. So yeah.
But I'm not surprised anyone who would do it when all you got to do is go to one of the many widely available free websites, click the extremely clean and clear interface that says the exact game or event you are looking for.
Extremely clean interface. That's funny. That's funny. Not because I know anything about it. I'm just laughing because that's a funny statement.
and just watch it for free. But honestly, we should have seen this terrible streaming climate coming from a mile away, because as they say, nothing good lasts forever. And to understand why piracy is so rampant today, we have to understand this detailed list of problems that piracy solves. Netflix used to be $8 per month, and it had a deep catalog of some of the most popular shows ever made. The Office, Friends, Breaking Bad, Dexter, Family Guy, American Horror Story, Pretty Little Liars, Law and Order, and even some Disney and Pixar titles. They had the Harry Potter films, they had Star Wars, they had classic movies like Shawshank Redemption, The Godfather, The Dark Knight. They even had Marvel titles before Disney Plus launched. It felt limitless, like the entire entertainment industry was in one app for the price of a fast food meal. Today, $8.99 gets you 9,000 shows you will never watch, and that's with ads. And if you don't want ads, no problem.
No way. So you're paying for Netflix. You're paying for Netflix, right? But that subscription does not guarantee you like 0 ads. There's no way.
That's $25 a month. Plus, every studio with a morsel of valuable IP decided to make their own app. So instead of one library, you get 10 half libraries, each charging you separately. HBO Max, $21 a month. Hulu and Disney Plus, $19 a month. Peacock, $17. Apple TV Plus, Paramount Plus, Discovery Plus, Stars Play, BritBox, and niche ones like Shudder, Crunchyroll, Acorn TV all jumped into the fight, each charging $4 to $20 a month. I sometimes have this thought like, man, I wish I could just pay one price for all of the streaming services grouped together, and then I realize that's kind of what cable was. But streaming was supposed to be the solution.
I thought he was talking about something else. Cable, it neatly put together a bunch of like networks, and then you'd like, all you would do is pay like for the basic cable bill, and anything, you just flip the channel to whatever you want to watch, and that will be it. And that has been almost like totally phased out, just in favor of all of these like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of all of these streaming services that like as long as you're a network, you have a streaming service. If you're this network, if you're that, and it's stressful.
To cable's outlandish prices and bloated packages, and yet they are slowly turning into the very thing they sought to destroy. Check out this old residential cable service price sheet from 1993. Just your basic news and weather channels was the same cost as Netflix when they first launched. Adding just 2 or 3 premium channels like the Disney Channel takes the price from $8 to $20 to $27 per month. This is actually insanely expensive for the 90s, especially when you consider that you did not get to choose what content to watch or when you.
So is it okay? So he's saying that it is pretty cable was expensive because so that birthed the era of streaming services. Okay, that makes sense. I still think it was cheaper. That's better that's better compared to what it is right now, which is just straight pandemonium, all of these streaming services. But yeah, I understand what he's saying.
You could watch it, and of course you still had commercials. Streaming solved all of these problems, but in 2025 almost all of these problems are back. I recently wanted to watch The Founder after doing research for my fast food video, but Netflix would not allow me to watch it since I pay for the cheapest version of Netflix that has ads. I was annoyed, but I thought maybe it had something to do with McDonald's having some sort of strict licensing issue that forced Netflix to lock it behind the premium premium tier, but it turns out there are 138 movies and TV series blocked on Netflix advertising tier. For $8 per month, you cannot watch Spider-Man, White Chicks, Boys in the Hood, or even the Garfield movie. Half the time, you don't even know whether something isn't available or not because of licensing contracts, region restrictions, or just because you're on the wrong subscription plan. The end result feels exactly like cable again, paying more money just to unlock what you thought you were already paying for, thus making piracy the logical solution. You can go to these super cool websites that I never endorse because that
Neither do I. Neither does the people who watch this video. We do not condone piracy.
is wrong and immoral, and just search basically any movie and get a high definition download. However, cable being much more expensive actually did have a slight benefit that nobody realized at the time. The competition for ratings meant that the shows that survived were usually the best of the best. Every network was fighting for limited primetime slots, and if a show could not pull in millions of viewers week after week, it was canceled. There was no filler at primetime. Seinfeld, Friends, The Simpsons, The X-Files, Sex and the City, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I could go on and on. Networks weren't pumping out hundreds of new series every year just to fill catalog space. They were making sure the few shows they produced had the writing, acting, and budgets to succeed. And to no surprise at all, these old shows are still dominating streaming services today. In 2022, Seinfeld racked up 19.3 billion viewing minutes on Netflix, making it the 10th most watched show of that year. Compare that to one of their most popular originals, Wednesday, which was everywhere in 2022. Viral on TikTok, Jenna Ortega was launched into A-list fame.
Yeah, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing Jenna Ortega's face. She was everywhere.
It was damn near a monoculture
Young Genius Records makes this. Yeah, we got it.
culture moment, yet it still drew fewer minutes than Seinfeld, a 30-year-old sitcom. Shows like The Umbrella Academy and The Rings of Power pulled in about half the audience of Seinfeld. Cable forced networks to compete for your attention in a way that streaming doesn't. And to take that one step further, today shows and movies are literally designed knowing that people are not all the way paying attention to them. Netflix has leaned into what's called the second screen era, where they assume that most viewers are watching TV while scrolling their phones, cooking, or doing laundry. Hollywood writer, director, and producer Justine Bateman said, "I've heard from showrunners who are given notes from the streamers that this isn't second screen enough."
I'm ashamed to admit that I do this. I do plan to stop. I am going to stop. The whole just thing playing in the background, it just fries your brain. So for me, it's important that I don't do it. So yeah, the fact that Netflix recognizes this as like a phenomenon is crazy. The fact that they understand that this is a thing and we need to lean into it is wild, and it's concerning. If literally Netflix understands this as a real thing and they're leaning into it, that is concerning.
Which begs the question, why would someone give all of their attention to something that is only designed to be consumed with half of their attention? According to reports, Netflix execs are urging screenwriters to have characters announce their actions out loud so that viewers can follow along without looking at the screen. For example, "We spent a day together," Lohan tells her lover James in Irish Wish. "I admit it was a beautiful day filled with dramatic vistas and romantic rain, but that doesn't give you the right to question my life choices. Tomorrow, I'm marrying Paul Kennedy." "Fine," he responds. "That will be the last you see of me because after this job is over, I'm off to Bolivia to photograph an endangered tree lizard." This kind of over-explaining feels completely unnatural, and real people don't talk like this. It makes what should feel cinematic like a boring audiobook. And look, I'm all for casual viewing. I know a ton of my audience casually watches my videos while doing other things. But also, I make low-budget YouTube videos that are free to watch, not multi-million-dollar films behind a paywall. I don't know about you, but when I watch a movie, I like to pay attention.
Yeah.
By training viewers to expect content that
A movie is different, by the way. You do not, because for me, when I was watching The Punisher, it was hard to get off the screen and like go off and do something else. For me, it was like the the visual part of the thing is very important. You know, it's really important to like actually look at the stuff that you're watching, right? You need to look at the movie to actually understand what's happening, because if you hear just a bunch of like jumbled audio, it's like this person's screaming, this person is like shooting, this person's doing this person's doing that, you don't understand what's happening until you watch it. So for me, I don't like that is becoming a thing. That is incredibly, like I've said already, it's incredibly concerning.
Doesn't demand their full attention, Netflix is creating an audience that's even less likely to pay attention. And the less they pay attention, the less they care about quality. And as long as they feel just entertained enough, means they likely won't cancel their subscription. It's almost like they are conditioning the perfect audience who will barely pay attention to their content or their credit card bill so they can increase prices while lowering the quality for an audience who doesn't even notice. In the cable era, a show needed to be excellent to survive. Well, not forever actually. This started to die in the 2000s. Once cable became the dominant form of television in America, the few companies at the top could now take advantage of their market dominance. Cable prices climbed 40% in just 6 years, jumping from about $34 in 2000 to $47 in 2006. Meanwhile, inflation only rose 14.3% in that same period. Cable companies such as Comcast, Spectrum, Dish,
increasing something by 43% when the inflation was only 14% is just straight up greed. That's straight up greed.
in that same period. Cable companies such as Comcast, Spectrum, Dish, DirecTV, and Cox started bundling networks into giant packages with hundreds, sometimes thousands of channels. If you wanted to watch ESPN, you were forced to also buy Lifetime, QVC, the Golf Channel, MTV3, and whatever else they decided to shove into the bundle. You weren't allowed to just pick the 5 or 6 channels that you actually watched. And now, streaming companies are doing a similar tactic. They flood their platforms with new shows and movies you will never watch because adding volume creates the illusion of value, justifying their increasing price. Netflix alone released 589 new Netflix originals in 2024, just slightly over its
1 year. That's 12 months. 12 months. Netflix originals released 500. Those are more than there are days in a year. Ooh. You have to imagine like the sacrificing quality at some point. You have to believe that they're sacrificing the hell out of 589 in just 2024. I can guarantee like a good amount of them can't be that good. 589 is way too much for 1 year. But hey, I don't own Netflix. I don't know what they do. That's them. They can do what they want.
2023 total of 568. There can't possibly be nearly 600 new shows and movies worth watching every year, but it's all part of the bigger plan. Every year, Netflix originals slowly take up more of their catalog, and then they license less. In 2022, over 50% of their catalog was originals. Now, some of these originals are good. Ozark, Queen's Gambit,
Hello, how are you?
Hey there. Long time no see.
Beef are just a few off the top of my head, but the rest are mostly filler. They are watering down their product to save money instead of purchasing valuable shows, because licensing the movies and TV shows you actually want to watch cost a fortune. In 2019, Netflix lost both Friends and The Office, two classic, reliable sitcoms that were some of the most watched shows on their platform, after Warner Media and NBC pulled the rights for their own services. To fill that gap, Netflix struck a massive deal to acquire Seinfeld, reportedly paying over $500 million for global streaming rights, and that's only for 5 years. So they would have to spend another fortune to keep the show. And this is the cycle we're stuck in now. Streamers don't want to pay billions to keep the classics that people actually want to watch, so they crank out repetitive, boring, low-budget originals that are literally designed for you to halfway pay attention to. Then they slowly raise the monthly price because look at all this new, fresh, original content we're giving you. And users have been
which is bullshit. Basically, they're just bundling crap and then just telling you, oh, but look at all of this stuff. But it's, you're making more originals than there are days in the year. Those are like a good amount of them are probably bad, you know, because you're rushing to do that. You can't be going at like at a pace where you're really paying attention to detail, actually focusing on the cinematography, the stuff that's going on, like the story. You can't be doing that, right? So there's a good amount of them I feel like have to be bad. It just has to. 589 is a wild number in just 1 year.
conditioned to only watch casually anyways, so they barely notice the dip in quality. Plus, that's only one streaming service. Every company with a little bit of valuable IP started their own app, and they're doing the same exact system. So now if you want a library of great shows and movies, you need to subscribe to multiple services. The average household actively uses around 4 streaming apps, and 8% even access 10 or more. That equals about $69 per month, which is just about the same price that cable was in the early 2010s when everyone jumped to streaming. Piracy is the solution to all of these problems. Piracy reached a low in 2020 with 130 billion website visits, which by the way is still a ton, but by 2024 that number had risen
130 billion. There's 7 billion people on this. There's 8 billion people on this planet. 130 billion visits.
into 216 billion, and it's actually incredibly simple as to why. Gabe Newell, the founder of the online video game marketplace Steam, summarized this perfectly nearly a decade ago. We think there is a fundamental misconception about piracy. Piracy is almost always a service problem and not a pricing problem. If a pirate offers a product anywhere in the world, 24/7, purchasable from the convenience of your personal computer, and the legal provider says that the product is region locked, will come to your country 3 months after the US release, and can only be purchased at a brick and mortar store, then the pirate service is more valuable. In short, convenience is key, and people are willing to pay, but why are they making it so complicated? The music industry got it right for the consumer. They created something so simple that it wasn't even necessary to pirate music anymore.
Even though I don't like Spotify, just because of what they do to the artist, it's just terrible that they do that. They legitimately take the whole pie and you can't even call those crumbs what they give to the less than a cent per 1,000 streams is. So you're making so much. I'm not going to go into tangent. We're going to be here for 40 minutes if I start talking about Spotify.
At its peak, Napster had nearly 80 million registered users downloading and sharing music for free. By the mid-2000s, sites like LimeWire and BitTorrent were handling billions of illegal downloads every year. Year over year, music revenue sales were dropping, and the music industry executives were convinced it was because of piracy. That's when Spotify, Apple Music, and other music streaming services came around to essentially make the Netflix of music. However, these services are better because there is no exclusivity. No matter what service you pay for, you will have access to basically the same exact music as any other platform. One monthly price and nearly every song and album ever made. Now, this isn't necessarily all good. This has devalued music incredibly, and artists get fractions of a penny per stream, but unfortunately, the customer doesn't care because the service is better for them. But we might be at a tipping point with music streaming services because Spotify is seemingly taking a page out of Netflix playbook and prioritizing their own music over licensed music, but the problem is it's AI generated. But that's a whole different.
That is a W he drew that comparison. Oh, I like the way he did that. That comparison is so cool. Like the fact that um, Netflix is making 589 shows, which most of them have to be bad, and Spotify is like doing AI music, and it's starting to like do that basically, and they're going to be, that is a W comparison, right? Because at some point they're going to like raise the price just because, oh, we have tons of new music, we have like 10,000 new songs and like a billion new albums, but all of them are like created by a computer, an LLM.
Video. Compared to now, it seems like in the early 2010s, streaming services had it right. All they had to do was not change. Piracy was at an all-time low in the early 2010s because it was safer, easier, and not a financial burden to just pay for the content you wanted to watch. Now, there are always going to be people who simply don't want to or can't pay. This is extremely common with pay-per-view events. For many years, Dana White and the UFC waged war against sites like crack streams, trying to convince everyone that he would get them shut down.
You kind of stirred the pot a little bit with the piracy, the online streamers. They want to come after you and give this thing away. So, any regret? Kind of maybe stirring the pot a little bit.
I'm glad you asked me about that because we got one. We got him. We're watching this guy right now. All you have to do is turn it on Saturday, and we got you. I can't wait. Turn it on Saturday, streamers, and see what happens.
Nothing happened. 4 years later, and you could watch any
Nothing happened.
UFC fight crystal clear HD on a handful of different free streaming sites.
Crystal clear HD. That is wild. They turned on that shit and then just watched him and just waited. He didn't do shit. I'm sorry, I'm spitting everywhere.
Eventually realized
That's crazy.
he was losing the battle with illegal pay-per-view streamers, and to everyone's surprise, he actually made a deal that benefits the consumer now. In 2026, all UFC events will air exclusively on Paramount Network.
Work today is broken. We're all working in too many disconnected apps, and it's killing team productivity. But for
networks in the United States. That means 13 marquee numbered events and 30 fight nights will air via Paramount Plus. For $13 per month, you can get all the UFC events and all of Paramount's content ad-free. This is actually a monumental shift. For the first time ever, fans will have access to the fights at the lowest cost in history. But it's not all positive. Some suspect that this is the beginning of the UFC resorting to basically all the exact issues I have already raised with streaming services. Once the UFC moves fully to a streaming platform, they've got your money locked in, whether the card is stacked with superstars or filled with nobodies. That pressure to deliver massive must-see events disappears overnight. And honestly, that's already been happening in the past couple years. The storytelling is basically non-existent, cards are bloated with fighters nobody cares about, their upcoming talent pool is getting less impressive and exciting, but now the cost of 13 marquee events is roughly the same.
That's a third comparison. Streaming, UFC, and music. He drew those comparisons beautifully. It's actually like incredible that, because you start to see a pattern with stuff like that. Because music is doing AI, streaming is doing like filler shows, filler originals, and UFC is like having just fights with no build up, no gas like behind the people who are actually fighting, so you have no reason to care. So it's like, you know, it's starting to look more like a business model than like a comparison, because like they're starting to follow the same system, because as soon as they do that, it's going to increase. As soon as UFC creates like its own, I don't know if it already has one, but if it creates its own streaming service, like it's done. The quality of it, it's just going to go downhill.
Price as one pay-per-view. So as long as you get one good card per year, it's technically worth the subscription. They quite literally just cheapened their product, so we should expect the quality to decrease even more. Also, fighters have traditionally been paid based on pay-per-view points, meaning if the card sold well, they got paid well. Once that model
Hold on. Fighters received $1 for every pay-per-view ticket sold between 200,000 and 400,000. So basically, if you have no gas, or like if you have no steam, or like your name has no gravitas yet, you do not get any type of good audience. So your pay is basically shit. That's what I'm getting from this.
appears, the UFC has to raise base pay for their top stars just to keep them happy. That makes those stars more expensive to book, so to save money, the UFC will inevitably have them fight less. Fewer high-profile matchups, more watered-down fight nights, and a whole lot of filler. Fans will pay less, but they also will get less. All of these companies across the entire entertainment industry, besides music, kinda, have overcomplicated their model of delivering content to customers for the sole purpose of squeezing every last dollar out of the end user. I believe most people are good people, and I don't think anyone expects to get quality entertainment for free. We were in a good sweet spot in the 2010s, but greed ruined it. Now the costs are higher, the content is worse, and the convenience is gone. I've canceled nearly all of my subscriptions or reduced to just the ad tier because I just don't watch as much. And I know I'm not alone. When the system no longer respects the consumer finds another way. That's why piracy doesn't feel like stealing anymore. It feels like the logical solution.
That was an interesting video. I like the points he was making, the kind of the parallels he drew, the points. Like this was like a high quality video. That's why I watched this guy so much. But other than that, the channel, the original video, it's all in the description. But other than that, I'll see you guys later. Peace.